Hi, and welcome to Take a Beat. My name is Tirza, and I'm the digital pastor here at IES. And Take a Beat is an IES podcast where we invite you to take a little break, talk about things, about faith, about God, only to launch ourselves back on the beat. Well, I am super excited because I have a bunch of wonderful people here today.
Let's go.
So I have, I'll start over there. I have Rashley, and because you're right in front of me, I have Rashley, Reina, and Gabe. Why doesn't your name start with an R?
Exactly. Why did you have to break that?
True. Should I?
No. So I want them to kind of introduce themselves. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Rashley.
Hi, Rashley.
I really want to say I'm turning 30 this year, and I actually I guess a sports entrepreneur. I have a tennis league. And
I love how he just like kind of breezes past. I have a tennis league. So talk about your tennis league. What do you do? What is it? Can people participate?
Yes, they
By
can
people,
if
it's
they
not
play
me.
tennis. Like this guy, he plays tennis, so
I
he
used
can
to participate.
It's open for public. It's running throughout Indonesia, so nationwide. We currently operate in more than 6 cities.
Wow, you are a sports entrepreneur. That is actually, Well, Reina.
Okay. My name is Reina. I wear a lot of hats in general. So I am a global communications manager for one nonprofit called Resource Global. I do fashion modeling as well. And I surf in IES Encounter.
That's right. And I also learned that if IES Encounter ever go on trips, what role do you play?
I'm a road manager.
Sure, that's
Let's
right.
go.
Nice.
Miss Reina.
Road manager. Book everything.
That's why our retreats have been really fun.
No,
Right?
retreat's not under the park.
It's when they go to a worship night in like Bandung. I think that was,
Bandung,
and then you're
Bali,
going to have
Manado.
Bali, and then you'll have a few trips this year.
Right.
Fun. I know who to contact if I ever need to book
It's
things.
Miss Reina.
Hotels, book flights.
All right.
All right. My name is Gabriel. People usually call me by Gabe. And what do? I am currently doing family business.
Okay.
We are in aviation industry. And at this...
Really? I don't know that.
You don't know that?
No, you do.
Now I
We
do.
are in
That's why it's so
aviation.
fly. Oh,
What?
sorry.
Did you just
Not
say
bad.
he's so fly?
Yeah.
He just did.
Good job.
Thanks.
Good job.
And then I'm also doing ministry on the side. Just active in ministry, and that's what I'm like currently passionate about as well. So
Okay, one thing I know though about all of you is you've lived like in a country other than Indonesia for quite some time. So Rashley, where did you live for a long time?
I lived in the US for almost 10 years.
Almost 10?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Reina?
I live in Korea for 4.5 years.
Okay. And fluent in Korean?
Fluent in Korean, hopefully still.
It's okay. It's all of the variety, the reality TV shows we
gotta
watch.
catch up with the
Reality
culture.
TV shows.
Gotta catch up with the culture.
And Gabe?
I lived in Beijing for 9 years, but I'm not fluent in Chinese. I can speak to survive. That's how it is.
That's all you need.
Speak to order
Speak
food.
to survive.
That's all
That's
you
what
need.
matters.
Yeah.
In China,
yeah,
that's what
yeah.
matters.
What?
I won't get lost in
Speak to
China.
survive.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
By the way, the rest of this podcast will be in multiple languages.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I like, wait.
Think putong, think
No, this is going to be too confusing.
Too confusing.
Well, one of the things that we kind of started last month, we had the teens over. It was rowdy. And you guys are a lot more well-behaved than the teens. Sorry, Karsten.
We're glad.
Shama. But I wanted to talk to the young adults because you're roughly around the same age.
Yep.
The three of you, not me. But I wanted to talk about what faith is like for young adults, and so maybe talk a little bit about how you became a Christian. Like, were you always a Christian, and what role did faith play in your life up till this point?
Okay.
Right.
We have 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour.
Yeah, it's okay. I can split this into different episodes. Then I have episodes for the rest of the year.
Nice.
Want to start, Rashley?
Okay, sure. I was born in a Catholic home.
Okay.
My I think for the earlier parts of my life, I was a Catholic, but thankfully, my dad has always been one who was more interested in my growth than my religion. So
Okay.
he allowed me. I moved to a Christian school in middle school, which is a Christian traditional school. So then we actually had to study the Bible, the history. A big chunk of the curriculum was looking at history through the lens of Christianity, and it was also under a church.
Okay.
So, and my dad saw that I really took a lot of interest there, and so he allowed me to keep attending Christian church. Even when I first moved to IES South, I asked my dad to come, and then he went with me instead of going to a Catholic church. But that's kind of how I was first exposed to Christianity. But to really, really kind of make the story short,
Yes, because I don't have to.
so I grew up in a broken family. So my parents were divorced when I was young, and all we know our family business is tennis. So all we know was
the
just
sports
tennis.
entrepreneur thing
Right.
is a family business.
Generational
So yeah, my
things.
dad has a tennis academy. So I was born into tennis. But the downside of that is that they were just doing tennis day and night. And so we don't really have a lot of social life outside of the tennis. So then even at school, we don't really have a lot of close friends.
Okay.
So that led to a lot of times being like alone for a big part of your years. But again, we grew up in a divorce home. So a lot of us are still navigating through that situation. So that wasn't ideal. But I've always felt until where I am now, to be able to be called like a sports entrepreneur, I felt like it's all very, very just ordered by God. It was very evident because for me to be able to see that I didn't grow up as a broken person from broken child. Sorry, broken child coming from a broken home. I think that is like God has always been there.
Yeah.
And I never really knew that it was God, but I knew there was someone. And I've always, but that was very clear that was God. And even how I got into the States to get a school there, a scholarship, all of them, I can say that I really didn't earn any of that.
Yeah.
Like I really felt like everything was God giving me a lot of grace and a lot of favor. So that then I got baptized as a Christian in Chicago. And because for me, label wasn't a big thing, I really forgot to tell my dad. And he found out from Facebook and he just commented like, "Hey, congrats." And I was like, "Ooh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you." But I got baptized in Chicago as a Christian.
Okay. Cool.
For me, I also grew up in a Christian family. My dad is a deacon, but I think one of the things about growing up in a Christian family a lot of times is that it ended up becoming a chore, like going to Sunday service, becoming a chore. Like occasionally I would just
It's
sit.
part of the familial expectation.
Exactly. Skip the Doraemon in the morning and go to church.
Nice.
Hey, I know. Grow up in Indonesia, Doraemon Sunday morning.
Power Rangers for us.
So you have to skip that and everything. So for me, like I believe in God throughout my life. It's just that I don't think I understand truly what it means to follow Christ until college. I think it was slowly like I was really alone. So basically what happened was that when I started going to college, I feel very lonely because I wasn't as fluent in the beginning and people around
In
me.
Korean.
In
Yeah.
Korean, yes. I wasn't fluent in Korean at the beginning when I went to college, and a lot of my classmates were Korean. They were maybe a little bit hesitant to befriend a foreigner who doesn't speak Korean as well. So I just feel very lonely, and the only place I go to for communities is church. So I feel very welcomed. But I think one of the biggest encounter I had with God was because I was actually ended up being part of CCC, Campus Crusade for Christ. I think in the US it's called CRU.
Yes.
And every summer we have this huge summer conference. Everyone who's part of CRU in Korea and maybe neighboring countries like US even, they visit and gather together. It's like a huge thing. And I think that was the first time God really almost like nudged me or maybe even slapped me in a way that like, hey, I feel like your life, the definition of having a relation with God right now in your life is you dictating me what to do. This is God asking me like, I planned everything and then just ask God, hey God, this is what I planned. Make it happen, please. Something like that. Instead of actually putting God in the throne of my life. And in that moment, I really feel like God asking me to just strip down everything, every ambition, every plan that I have in my life, just a blank canvas, and listen to Him. So I remember just crying a lot because I'm like, I'm a planner. I don't know what to do now. But that was a huge life-changing moment for me. And ever since then, I ended up just kind of like really get to enjoy God's presence throughout, even beyond Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized, that this is what it means to have God on the throne of your life and just seeps through day-to-day life and not just on Sunday. So long story short, that was that.
All right, my turn.
I'm actually really waiting to hear you preach at Encounter.
No.
I'm just putting it out there, pants.
We've planted the seed.
Yes,
We're just
please.
waiting.
Anyway. Okay, so for me, I also grew up in a Christian family. And then I think both my parents were pretty much like very active at church as well. They were very much involved. And so same as Reina, since I was a little kid, they always asked me like to do like this serving at church, whether it's drama or like
And
being,
foregoing Power Rangers.
yes, Power Rangers, Pokemon, and all those.
Sunday morning.
Doraemon.
Yeah,
Sailor
why do
Moon.
they put it on Sunday? But anyway, so that was that, and then but I actually left home when I was 15. So they sent me to Beijing. I graduated quite early. I started school a year earlier. So when I was 15,
Is this you telling us that you're really smart?
no, it's not that. But I left when I was 15 to China, and basically that was, I feel like that was the time where I faced the like life challenge, and God was really shaping me during those times. So from 2011 until 2020, I was in Beijing all alone, and I didn't speak any Chinese at all. So
That's crazy.
I'm having anxiety just hearing this because I'm like,
Yeah.
in a country, I don't speak the language at
Right.
15.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I think at
Right.
15 versus at 20 is two very different times.
Yep. So I think that's when, like, my mom keeps on telling me, like, oh yeah, you should pray. And then during these times, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm going to China. But after 9 years of being in Beijing, then, like, after I got back, I realized that those times I was able to survive in 9 years in China. And then I think because when you're still 15, your teenage year is the year where you are still like being shaped. And then and I was I'm a very chill person, so I got involved, and I'm very social as well. So I got involved in different
that's him
social activities.
telling us that he's popular.
No.
He is just humble bragging.
No.
Just casually.
The
Sorry,
point.
sorry.
I'm gonna get to the point at some point.
Just kidding, bro.
But yeah, during those times, I got exposed to so many different styles where people like, I think most of my friends are at least 6 years older. So they laughed at me for like or being like very much like naive or like oh you don't drink or you don't do this, you don't do this like, and then Beijing is a place where people from all different nations and different culture back then, and then people were just very different. So I think now reflecting during those times when I was in Beijing, I think that's when I realized that prayer was a very much big part of me, and then and also like yeah, it was passed on from my family. Like my mom always remind me to always pray, and because living in Beijing for 9 years also showed me that yeah, somehow I'm always different from the others. Like when people go to Beijing, they always just come, study, and leave. And then I was the one who wanted to stay back. And then when I was there, I also got to work at church. So yeah, and before then, I don't really click with church people. I used to feel that church people are weird. So I'm sorry to all church people out there.
Because I'm like,
So you know how he feels, no?
You mean you?
yeah, but I was like, hon, you're a church person now.
now I know. But yeah, I think after that, God really showed me that yeah, everyone is the same. Everyone is God's creation, and I think it's just how you can embrace where you are at and where God wants you to be planted in. And from there, then you can see yourself like grow. And yeah, that is why even after I got back to Indonesia, I still love serving at church
Praise
and doing
Jesus.
the church stuff.
Yes, please say that so we can have that for Pastor Anthony. So he knows how you feel about serving. So I wanted to ask, now that you're here, so that's how kind of what role faith has in your life up till now. But now how old are you all?
30-ish.
30-ish?
29.
29.
Okay. So
Well, no, I'm 30. I'm not. I was ish for everyone. But like,
It's 30,
I'm 28.
30.
yeah, so this is the time of your life when you're you're young, you're successful, that's kind of the idea that people have about young people in their 30s or 29, late 20s, early 30s. So now what does faith play? What role does faith play in your life?
okay, so I guess the general order is gonna be like this.
Or we can go Gabe
No, I'm
first.
sorry.
He might smack you, but
No. Yeah, I think it's really funny that you mentioned success because I think that's it's not sensitive, maybe that's not the right word, but that's like the buzzword, right? Like for people
Hot
in their
topic,
30s, yeah, like that's what we want all the time. I think, this may not be a popular opinion, but
it's okay. I like unpopular opinions.
it's very easy, especially looking left and right, people of my age that are a lot more popular. Those who are in Forbes 30 under 30, it's very easy to see that. But what faith has taught me is that, a couple of key learnings was that one, we're not here to give ourselves glory, and success as we see it, like for 30 under 30 and all of that, those are the definition of the world, like what success looks like. Definition of success in the world is always more, right? But that's not how God sees success. And so one is that it's not for my glory, but it's for God. So two is also accepting that if God assigns a lot to me, that's awesome. But if God doesn't assign a lot to me, that doesn't mean that I'm any less.
So can you elaborate on that?
For me, that takes so what that means is, because we always want more from our life. And personally, I do too. Like, I want more money.
Thank you for being honest.
I want more success. I want to be able to live an easy life, right? But we've heard the stories so many before that riches don't buy happiness. We've seen a lot of people who are rich that are depressed and all that stuff. So that's an indicator that there's that it's false to
Yeah.
an extent. And so then what I've learned is also that, well, also similarly, I think in our impact, of course, we want to be used for bigger things. Like I used to worship lead in Chicago, and sometimes when we think about that part of ministry, like, man, I want to be able to like serve in a big stage and all that stuff, like elevation and all that stuff. But serving in a small church is not any less than that.
Yeah.
And sometimes your assignment is at a small church because that's where you're needed.
That's right.
But I think the tendency, again, relating to success, then we always measure like, man, but how come I'm not there? How come I'm not like this big, famous like singer? And that's why for me, it's like sometimes our portion is different,
Yeah.
less or more. In the eyes of God, I think that's like you are serving and you are planted where you are. But in the eyes of the world, that's more successful and less successful. So being able to accept that, one, I think helps me to also just stay focused to where I am right now instead of, doesn't mean that I'm not aspiration. I have a lot of aspirations still. And my prayers are like, Lord, please, if it's in your plan, if I
it's
want
at
your
all
favor, please, I want to obey, but please, Lord, if it's in your plan, like, give me more. But yeah, but I stopped looking for more outside, but it helps me to focus just where I am right now. Because like, okay, then that's where I'm planted. I think that's kind of how faith makes me do life a bit differently. But yeah.
I'm interested to hear what you have to say because you're in a lot of different worlds, like nonprofit, modeling. That's an industry. And I mean, we've had coffee about
so
like
many conversations.
that. So how about you?
I think for me, two things, two words that really struck out to me in terms of like what faith means to me. One is anchor and one is freedom. Talk about anchor, like I really see my faith, God's presence in my life as the key guidance, right? Like if I don't know what to do, like ask God, what would Jesus do, right? Truly an anchor in a way that also He strengthens me. He is the one who gave me like, He sustains me as well in that way. Give me pointers in a way that like, okay, like do this. And I'm not saying that I hear God clearly say, Reina, do this. But, and that leads me to the second point, just freedom, means that I just trust that when He opens up a way that's meant to happen, then it'll happen. But even if it doesn't happen, that also can be a learning point from Him. And that brings me so much freedom because I get anxious. When I just worries and everything, it's freeing to know that even if it doesn't go the way that the world would think it's like successful means, like you fail or something, it's still okay. Like God will somehow make it a lesson, or in the end, it's for the good. At the same time, you brought a lot of points about successful. I think what's weird, almost, I feel like this past few years, God has been stripping me off from a lot of ambitions. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I used to be very ambitious.
Yeah.
Plan a lot, just aim high. But for now, if people ask me like, what's your 5-year plan? Like, what's the end goal? Like, I actually don't know. I do have something I ask God or I dream of, but even then, I think I don't really force it. I'm trying to not force it to God in a way that, God, you know the best. I have a desire to become this or to do this. But if it only ended up becoming a hurdle for my relationship to you, then I don't want it either. So that's so freeing for me.
Yeah.
Actually, that's it. If you go to Exodus, and that's actually one of my favorite stories in the Bible, is when, God told Moses, okay, I am sick of these people. Just let them go into the promised land. And then, because that's what they want, right? Go into the promised land. I'll give it to you, but I won't be there. And Moses was like, if your presence don't go with me, I'm not moving. I'll stay here in the wilderness.
Yeah.
I think, that's really powerful.
Right. Remind me the question again.
So wait, what is
Faith.
the question?
Something about faith.
But what role does faith play now for you in this season of life?
Yes. I think it's similar to the two of you.
All right, we're good. We're done.
You're welcome.
This is the reason why I shouldn't go last. Because you guys use all the answers.
The next point.
Next time we're going that way.
But yeah, I think because at this age and then during this time, people, especially like our age, we always strive for success.
Thank you for including me in our
Right,
age.
right. It's for everyone. Everyone wants a success, wants to be successful, more money, more everything. And I think what's different for me is that by having faith, I know that it's not just by my own strength.
Yeah.
And I think as maybe like some other people who don't have faith, they would just be like, oh, if there is God, he should have shown me this.
Yeah.
But then for me, like as I have faith and I keep on relying to God, it's like when people say, I always use this term, ada bantingannya. So it's like someone who I can rely on. When things go wrong, something that I can rely on. And what I realize and what I learn is that when I rely on humans, then they fail. When I rely on myself,
They're not strong enough to handle.
Right.
Yeah.
Even if like, let's say your close friend, your best friend, even your family, they could only handle so much of your trouble.
That's right.
Because they have their own trouble as well.
And you can't handle all of their trouble too.
Exactly. And with having faith and knowing God personally, because like our God is a God of relation, right?
Yeah.
And then as much as we want relation outside God, but deep down we do find comfort when we have relationship with God.
That's right.
And how is by reading the Bible and all the stuff. And by reading the Bible, you will also know that all of these stories about like success or successful people is like, oh, God actually make us to be a leader, like to be the head, not the tail. And just by having that faith, we would know that everything that we do, even when we like go not according to God's plan, he would pull us back. And I think that's how I feel more secure. I'm still learning about it. Like I think it's more about like the mindset or like how you can always like constantly reminding yourself that,
That's right.
all right, oh, it's God, oh, it's God, oh, it's God. And when that happens, when I can see that when I'm actually struggling or when I'm happy, I always know that, oh, it's God. So I think that's the most significant thing by having faith for me.
Yes, Rashley.
I'm piggyback.
I feel like I'm a teacher. Yes,
Yes.
Rashley.
When I was on the way here, I was listening to this sermon by Era Bernard. He said that it takes courage to be Christian because once you identify as a Christian, then you lose yourself, which I think is very countercultural because here, especially as young adults, is where we find our identity. And so we really try to find our place in the world.
Yes.
But I think as a Christian, like to the point of freedom, it's very tiring to try to prove yourself to the world because it's never enough. But as a Christian, like the identity is really like it's not mine anymore.
You're not supposed to feel at home here.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. This is a temporary space, and it's just for God. And so then there's freedom to move because I'm not. Well, who cares what other people think? Maybe, and I will not please everyone.
That's right.
And so if I don't please everyone,
right.
well, that's fine because like I know if the heart is centered with God, one, you know that okay, then wherever you move, as long as we're centered with God, then we're moving with God, we're following God. And if we do make a mistake, we know that there's God, right? So then we're not afraid to make a mistake.
So what you said about being, countercultural, let's be practical. It's hard. When you want to live out, it's not just, I'm a Christian, but you want to live out your faith in a culture that has a different definition of success, a different definition of ambition, have focus on different things. It is difficult to be a Christian.